It's no fun when our kids are sick, but we may just have found the silver lining. Apple and raspberry and orange flavoured electrolyte slushies made by Rehydrate.
Rehydrate slushies are a tasty way to get essential electrolytes into our little ones when they're dehydrated from sickness or even just the Aussie heat. They're delicious and they'll help your little ones feel better in no time. Grab Rehydrate from Coles today. It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. I'm Dr. Justin Coulson, dad to 6 kids, author of 6 books, and I'm joined by Luke and Susie, husband and wife radio team. They have 3 young boys, and today we're talking about the challenge of making step-parenting work, although I think that the lessons from this conversation will be applicable to pretty much any parent in any situation where relationships are a little strained at home. Michael sent in a question, Susie.
Michael said, my new wife is an amazing mother to her kids, his stepkids. She seems to be effortless in how she cares for them and has a lot of fun with them. But it's a struggle for me. I want to be involved. Where do I start is what Michael asks.
Being a stepdad's a really tricky job because children love their parents and they feel as though, in many cases, once that biological parent that they used to live with is now no longer there and they've only got one of them, and then there's somebody new that's come on board, sometimes it can feel like there's a bit of a contest for mum's attention. In addition, sometimes the new step-parent can feel like, well, because I'm married to your mum or to your dad, I've got to have some level of stewardship, some sort of responsibility for you and your behaviour. And so we end up with all sorts of boundary issues around the relationships and around discipline. And even, I'm thinking about Michael, he's fallen in love and has a beautiful relationship with these children's mum, but just because he's got a great relationship with mum doesn't mean that he's going to automatically have a great relationship with the children. They haven't spent the same kind of time with him in the same way that mum has. And so there are all of these things going on that make the development of a new family extremely challenging, and the development of those new relationships between Michael and his stepkids very, very difficult to really get going.
It's a difficult question for you to answer as well because we don't know details. We don't know if she was widowed or if she was divorced. We don't know the ages of the children that are involved, how many children are involved, the genders of the children involved. So we're going to be speaking in generalisations, I realise. Luke, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, because there's 2 defaults that I feel like we can probably go into in a step-parent situation. And one is to overly try and be their friend and try and win them over by being cool, or to overly try and be their parent and try and be too disciplinary. And we've seen from all the movies how horribly both of those options go wrong, Justin.
Yeah. I don't know that Hollywood's going to be the very best indicator of how this could play out, but I guess there might be some art imitating life or vice versa. If I was in that situation, or if I was counselling somebody who had just entered that situation, my suggestion would be, number 1, take it easy. Go slow. Don't try to be their friend. Don't even try to be their parent, because you're neither. And so when you try to be one of those 2 things, it's inauthentic and it's not fair on you or the children. It's not fair on the family. It's not even fair on your new wife. So what I'd suggest instead is learn about the kids in non-stalkerish, non-weird ways. Because it's 2020, I kind of feel like I need to put a little caveat in there. We need to develop appropriate relationships with them. But ask if you can go on a walk or a ride with them. Have some one-on-one time. Get to know them. Don't worry about talking too much about you. Just ask them about their lives. If they're not really keen to talk about themselves, maybe share a few things about yourself, because as you invest in the relationship, you've heard me say this over and over and over again, just like dollars are the currency of our economy, connection is the currency of our relationships. So we've got to spend time developing those connections, and the only way we can do that is to actually spend time. The other thing that I'd suggest in that same vein is I'd spend time engaged in what I'm going to call, in inverted commas, wholesome recreational activities. Now, that's an intentionally stated phrase that means go and play games, listen to music, engage in activities that are good fun, that are either active physically or active cognitively, and that get everybody together, ideally in a non-competitive way, or if there is competition, make sure it's very friendly competition with a focus on the relationship and getting better at a skill. So maybe go down to the park and learn how to throw a frisbee or kick a ball, or maybe sit down and play some Boggle or Boulder Dash or Monopoly. But those are the kinds of activities where you just slowly develop a relationship, because those kids, they don't have the depth of relationship. They haven't learned to trust you yet.
And I get a sense that maybe whatever approach you take, there is a risk that you can try too hard. And when you try too hard, maybe that's a barrier that, from the kid's perspective, like, oh my gosh, here he goes again.
Yeah, I reckon I'd address this in a conversation, and this is the second thing. Outside of spending time in the relationship, the second thing that I would do, depending on the age of the children, is I'd address it directly by saying, I can see that every now and again it looks like I'm trying too hard, or you don't really want to engage with me because I'm not your dad, or you feel a bit uncomfortable because this is one of those conversations that's probably just between you and your mum. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, you're actually saying, I get how it feels for you to be engaged in this situation with me when it's not what you would have picked. In fact, I know a couple of step parents who have used a line along these lines. They've said, I know that you didn't ask for me to be in your life. I know that what you want more than anything is for your mum and dad to be together, and for everything to be the way that it was supposed to be, and it didn't work out that way, and you feel like it's totally unfair. And I know that you see me as somebody who's actually stopping your parents from ever being together again. And I can't do anything about that, and I feel awful for you, and I wish it was different. But here's what I can do. I can promise to earn your trust, and I can promise to not try too hard, and I can promise to leave you alone when you need me to. And, you know, they've gone in from that perspective, which shows a wonderful empathy and a wonderful desire to say, I'm going to support your autonomy as you decide how much you can trust me. Oh, you know what? It's also worth mentioning, Luke and Susie, what trust is. And I love this definition of trust. It comes from Dr. John Gottman, and he says trust is the belief that the other person's always going to act in your best interest. And I think at the very heart of Michael's dilemma may be a question of trust. At this point, do the stepchildren truly believe that he is going to act in their best interest? They probably believe that he's going to act in his best interest, maybe even in mum's best interest, but do they believe that he'll act in their best interest? And his great challenge is to prove that he is.
This is a subject that's very raw and personal for me, because we have a puppy, and that puppy loves Susie more than it loves me, Justin. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but bear with me, right? Okay.
Michael right now is shaking his head saying, I can't believe you're comparing my circumstances to your puppy.
But not the only one, Justin.
Wait, bear with me here.
Okay.
Because Susie was the be-all and end-all to this dog, and I found, like, while I spent time with him, it was just cuddle time, but it wasn't, I didn't get to play with him because I was working, and wasn't the one who brought him food, and I wasn't the one who was there during these moments. And so whenever I called the dog, it would never come to me. Never got excited, because I only took him out when it was cold to go to the toilet late at night. There was nothing good that came from spending time with me when I called him. And when we talked to our pet about training, he just encouraged to say they'll respond to you when the history is good things happen when I go to that space. Good things happen when I respond. And it's been incredible how quickly, and I know this is dogs, not kids. So I'm just trying to correlate with what you're saying, that trust, that best interest is this consistent pattern of experience to say good things happen when I'm with him. Good things happen, and I'm protected when my stepdad is around.
I think you might have pulled the wreck out of the swamp, Luke.
You got there in the end, yeah.
Took a while, a bit of a wind up, but we got there. Yeah, you know, that's really at the heart of what this conversation is. Step parenting is about building trust. That is, building a sense that intentions are always good, and the person, that the step parent is definitely engaged in trying to help, not hinder.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate you having a crack at a question where, when we don't get a lot of details, I know it's fairly generic answers, but that was beautifully done. Dr. Justin Coulson.
Look, I could go further with my puppy analogy. There's lots of things good. I can correlate.
We're good.
Right? But anyway.
Thanks, Justin.
If you have enjoyed this podcast, well, thank you so very much for listening. Would you do something it'll give me a thrill, but it'll also make a difference in other people's lives? I got so excited when I opened up my podcast app today, and I found a brand new 5-star review and rating from Mim, who said, Dr. Justin Coulson is my favourite parenting family expert. I cannot recommend him highly enough to anyone who needs encouragement and support in their parenting journey. His voice is often in my head during stressful times, helping me remain calm and loving to my children, even when I feel like screaming angrily. Thank you, Justin. Well, thank you, Mim. So very kind of you to send that through. That only landed 29 hours prior to me recording this. You know, it gives me a buzz to know that my podcast is helpful. But what it also does is it helps other people to find the podcast. The more ratings and reviews that are there, the more popular the podcast becomes, and we get to help thousands more families as a result. So, Mim, thank you so much. If you'd like more information about how I can help, obviously there's the podcast, there's my Facebook page, and right now, I'm so excited to tell you about the Happy Families membership. All the info for how you can become a member at Happy Families and get really high quality weekly support from me, including Q&As, an exclusive podcast that's only available to subscribers. You can't get it just by getting the free one that this one is. You can only get it on the Happy Families membership. There's also so many other opportunities for you to engage with me on making your family happier. If you'd like more information about the Happy Families memberships, please visit happyfamilies.com.au or go to my Facebook page, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families.